Imagine trying to build a new city, basically from the ground up. Not literally, of course, but figuring out its future, balancing growth with, keeping its character. What does that actually look like?
It's a huge undertaking, kind of like drawing up a living blueprint, one that needs to be ambitious, but also really listen to the people who actually live there.
Absolutely. And today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that kind of situation. We're looking at the city of South Fulton, Georgia. It's a young city, pretty dynamic, and we're going to explore their big plans for the future. Economic development, community growth, the whole picture.
Yeah, we've dug into their official economic development strategic plan, their comprehensive plan, even looked at notes from community meetings.
It's a lot of material.
Definitely. And our goal here is to sort of unpack how South Fulton is mapping out its next couple of decades, trying to weave together what the community wants, the economic facts on the ground, and some pretty big ambitions.
Okay, so where does a city like South Fulton even start with something this massive? What's the core document that guides it all?
Well, that foundational piece is usually called a comprehensive plan. You can think of it as the city's official master playbook.
Okay.
It's a policy document, and it really guides everything: future growth, preservation, change. It's got a long view, usually looking 20 years out.
20 years, wow.
Yeah, and it covers all the crucial stuff: land use, transportation, environment, housing, economic development, all those key pieces.
So it's not just aspirational, it has real teeth. It sets the rules for development.
Exactly. It provides the actual legal basis for local development regulations, and it pulls together all sorts of different city and regional plans into one place.
Gives everyone a common direction then.
Right. City leaders, staff, developers, citizens, everyone can look at it and see the vision, the goals, the values for the future.
And what's really interesting about South Fulton is that this is their very first comprehensive plan, right?
Yeah.
Since they officially became a city back in May 2017.
That's right. So they're really defining themselves, setting that foundation right now. It's a critical moment for them.
So what's their big vision? What are they aiming for?
The overarching principle they've stated is building an equitable South Fulton and making South Fulton a great place.
Okay, equity and quality of life.
Exactly. And interestingly, the community input really pushed for rebranding the city. There's this desire to emphasize its natural beauty, to be known as the Green Jewel.
The Green Jewel. I like that. Better than just another suburb.
Definitely. They want to avoid that perception of lacking green space.
And it's not just about branding, right? The plan has actual goals.
Oh, yeah. It's got 6 core community goals. Things like ensuring stable housing for everyone, building trust within the community, creating an economic engine for the South Side.
Makes sense.
Improving access to transportation and broadband, that's a big one. Developing a unique South Fulton identity, and just building a strong community overall.
So it's a real tool for them.
It is. It's meant for city leaders, staff, and the residents themselves to tackle the issues and really position South Fulton as a leader in the metro Atlanta region.
Okay, so the comprehensive plan lays out the vision. But to really get where South Fulton is going, we need to understand where it is now. What are the vital signs? The demographics, the economy.
Right, the current pulse. Well, South Fulton is definitely growing. Projections show nearly a 24% population increase between 2018 and 2040.
Wow.
Yeah, hitting maybe 124,000 people. And household growth is even faster, maybe around 28% growth. Right now, the estimate for 2024 is already over 115,000.
So it's already the 7th largest city in Georgia.
By population, yes. It's seen steady growth, about 2.2% compound annual growth since 2010.
That's pretty solid growth. What kind of people are moving in? What's the community feel like?
It seems very family-focused.
Yeah.
Back in 2019, almost 70% of households were family households. That's actually higher than Fulton County overall and higher than the Atlanta metro area.
Interesting. Suggests a strong community fabric, maybe.
Could be. The median age is relatively young, around 37.9, and a big chunk of the population is under 50.
So a growing, young, family-oriented city. What about the economy? Are the jobs keeping up with the people moving in?
Well, the Economic Development Plan is projecting almost a 29% increase in jobs by 2040. So aiming for over 30,000 jobs located within the city.
And what kind of jobs are growing?
Looking back between, say, 2013 and 2017, some sectors saw huge growth. Professional, scientific, and technical services that more than doubled.
Wow, 136% change.
Yeah, massive. And manufacturing also saw strong growth, up around 47%.
Okay, so those are growing fast. But what industries actually employ the most people inside South Fulton right now?
Right. The biggest employers within the city limits are transportation and warehousing, that's about 22%. Then wholesale trade at 17%, and manufacturing still significant at about 16.5%.
And where are these jobs concentrated?
A lot of that activity is centered on Fulton Industrial Boulevard. That's really a major economic hub for the city.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, you mentioned something earlier about commute patterns being interesting.
Yeah, this is pretty fascinating. Get this. Almost 97% of employed residents who live in South Fulton actually work somewhere else.
97% commute out.
Almost all of them. But here's the flip side. Nearly 36,000 people commute into South Fulton for work every day.
Huh. So it really boosts the daytime population. Good for local lunch spots, I guess.
Exactly. It definitely helps local businesses. But it highlights this dynamic where the city is an employment center, just maybe not for the majority of the people who actually live there. Only about 2,500 residents both live and work in the city.
That's a tiny fraction. Does that create specific challenges for planners? That mismatch?
It certainly does. You know, while having those commuters supports local retail, the fact that so many residents leave suggests maybe a gap. A gap between the local job opportunities and the skills or desires of the residents.
Right. Maybe a need for workforce training or attracting different kinds of jobs.
Essentially, yeah. Connecting residents to those local jobs could reduce commutes, keep more money circulating locally. It's a complex piece of the puzzle.
Okay, let's touch quickly on the socioeconomic side. What's the income picture look like?
The median household income was pretty strong in 2024, over $83,000. And a good chunk, almost 53% of households earn between $50,000 and $150,000 a year. That's actually a larger share in that middle to upper middle range than some surrounding areas.
Sounds relatively prosperous then. But I know growing cities often struggle with housing affordability, even with good incomes. Is that the case here?
It definitely is a significant concern. They use the term cost burden, meaning households spending over 30% of their income on housing.
Right.
And for homeowners, it's about 29%, but for renters, it's much higher, over 55%.
Oof, over half of renters are cost burdened.
Yeah. And adding to the complexity, they also noted high multifamily vacancy rates, around 15% back in early 2019.
Wait, high vacancy rates and high rent burden. How does that work?
It really points to a mismatch, doesn't it? It suggests that maybe the vacant units aren't the type of housing people need or can afford. It's not just about having enough units, but having the right kind of units, especially more affordable options, and maybe workforce housing that lines up with local incomes.
Got it. So building more of the right housing is key.
Yeah.
Now, what about the overall character? You mentioned a tool that puts a face on the numbers.
Yeah, the ESRI tapestry segmentation. It's kind of neat. It categorizes households based on demographics, lifestyle, buying habits. Gives you more of a qualitative feel.
So what does it say about South Fulton?
The big segments are up-and-coming families. That's almost 40% of households and family foundations, which is another 25%.
So overwhelmingly family-centric.
Exactly. It paints a picture of a community that's, relatively young, focused on family life, probably working hard, living in newer suburban-style housing. Gives you a better sense of the people behind the stats.
That's helpful. Okay, so we have the plan's vision, we have the current stats, but the real meat is often in what the community itself says. What did they see as the biggest challenges and hopes? This is where things get tricky sometimes.
Absolutely. And they did put a lot of effort into gathering that input. Surveys, focus groups, SWOT analysis sessions, talking to stakeholders.
Good. So what rose to the top? I hear there was a kind of surprising result for the biggest threat.
Yeah, this is the paradox I mentioned earlier. When asked about the top threat to the city, the community identified industrial development.
Wow. Industrial development.
Yeah.
But didn't we just talk about strong job growth in sectors like manufacturing and logistics?
Exactly. That's the tension. It's fascinating because those industries are significant economic drivers, especially around Fulton Industrial Boulevard.
So what does that tell us? People want the jobs, but not necessarily the warehouses or factories next door.
Pretty much. It highlights that classic planning dilemma, balancing economic needs with quality of life, environmental concerns, traffic impacts, all that stuff.
How does a city even begin to navigate that? Especially a young city trying to build its tax base.
It's tough. Usually it involves really careful planning and zoning, putting clear buffers between industrial and residential areas, maybe stricter environmental or aesthetic standards for new industrial projects.
Like making it look nicer. Or be quieter.
Things like that, yeah. Or focusing recruitment efforts on specific types of industry, maybe advanced manufacturing or high-tech logistics, things that are perceived as cleaner or providing higher wages. It's about being strategic, not just taking any development that comes along.
Okay, so that industrial paradox is a big one. What other major concerns came up from residents?
The surveys really flagged crime and issues with trash and cleanliness as significant challenges.
Basic livability issues.
Right. And the plan explicitly notes that if these aren't addressed, they could actually hinder the city's economic development momentum. Companies might hesitate to invest if those basics aren't solid.
Makes perfect sense. So those are the concerns. What about the aspirations? What kind of future do residents want to see? What kind of businesses?
They expressed a clear desire for more professional services, technology businesses, and, yes, still manufacturing employers, perhaps the higher skilled kind.
And investments.
Big focus on public schools, K through 12. Also, better public infrastructure, roadways, utilities, and continued investment in public safety.
What about housing? We talked about the cost burden. Did they want specific types of homes built?
Yes, definitely. A need for more diverse housing came through strongly. Things like single-family homes geared towards first-time buyers, more mid-market single-family options, and also workforce housing apartments.
There's options across the spectrum, not just one type.
Exactly, filling in those gaps. And related to that, promoting home ownership opportunities and maybe looking into property tax relief for certain residents, like seniors perhaps.
And what about that sense of place? Creating a distinct identity beyond just being a collection of subdivisions.
That came up a lot, that green jewel idea we mentioned.
Uh-huh.
Also, aspirations for more outdoor recreation. People even mentioned wanting something like a river walk, maybe similar to Columbus, Georgia, or Chattanooga.
Oh, interesting. Ambitious.
Yeah. And there's also this really bold vision for Old National Highway. The idea is to transform it into a real downtown area and entertainment district, a live work-play hub.
That would be transformative for Old National.
Yeah.
Okay, so residents have their list. What about the businesses already there or the ones they want to attract? What are they asking for?
Businesses had some key requests, too. They want a development review process that's, streamlined and customer-friendly, easier to navigate.
That's red tape.
Basically, yeah. And better access to the right infrastructure, reliable utilities, good roads, broadband is crucial now.
Right.
And also attracting specific types of businesses that could create a better ecosystem, maybe suppliers or complementary services.
Got it. Okay, so we've got the vision, the current reality, the community's hopes and fears and business needs. That brings us to the strategies. How is the city actually planning to do all this? Let's start with that equity piece, ensuring stable housing, building trust.
Okay. So under ensuring stable housing, the strategies include promoting those homeownership programs we talked about, exploring the property tax exemptions, and, importantly, developing a formal city housing strategy, a coordinated plan.
Makes sense. And building trust.
For building trust, they're focusing on things like training for neighborhood leaders, giving them the tools to engage effectively. Also, creating an online map showing development projects so people can easily see what's happening.
Transparency.
Exactly. And continuing something called South Fulton University, which educates residents about planning, zoning, how the city works, trying to empower people with knowledge.
That sounds like a great initiative.
Yeah.
Okay, what about firing up that economic engine and getting more local services?
Right. So efforts here involve programs to help retain and support existing small businesses, creating a business ambassador program to actively reach out, expanding an incubator called Collab South.
An incubator, cool.
Yeah, for startups. And then actively trying to attract grocery stores and restaurants, especially to areas designed to be walkable. And they even plan a community agriculture plan.
Community agriculture, like urban farms.
Could be. Or things like farmers markets, maybe coordinating food truck nights, ways to activate public spaces, support local food producers, and build community at the same time.
Food truck nights are always popular. Okay, shifting to the other big goal, making South Fulton a great place. How do they plan to manage development quality and protect that character people want?
This is where those character areas come in. They've defined different zones: agricultural, rural, suburban, various types of live work districts, commercial centers, industrial zones.
So different rules for different areas.
Precisely. It guides what kind of development fits where, the density, the look and feel, and remember that industrial concern. Well, within the designated industrial zone, the plan explicitly states that new residential development generally isn't allowed within 1.5 miles of an active quarry.
Wow, that's specific. A direct response to concerns.
Seems like it. And even closer than 1.5 miles, there are mitigation requirements, so they're trying to build in protections.
What about preserving the good stuff they already have? Green space, historic areas.
Big focus there, too. Strategies include preserving natural and agricultural land, partly by limiting new industrial zoning primarily to areas that are already industrial. Protecting the tree canopy is another goal.
The green jewel idea again.
Right. And promoting mixed use, walkable developments, particularly in key areas they want to revitalize or enhance, like the Red Oak Historic District and those old national highway districts, concentrating density where it makes sense.
And how are they planning to improve transportation, getting people around, dealing with those commutes?
It's multi-pronged. Improving walking and biking, more sidewalks, safety plans, partnering with MARTA, the regional transit agency, to boost bus service.
Better frequency, maybe new routes.
Exactly. The plan mentions MARTA's draft network changes, which include higher frequencies on key roads in South Fulton and these new on-demand transit zones, like microtransit. Plus, the city plans to develop its own comprehensive transportation plan.
Sounds like they're looking at all the angles. What about fostering that community spirit and culture?
Yeah, that's important too. Efforts include formally identifying and celebrating the different neighborhoods within the city, investing in historic resources through their Historic and Cultural Landmarks Commission.
Giving history a role.
Definitely. And incorporating public art into development projects, trying to weave culture and identity into the city's fabric.
Okay, last piece. The toolbox. What specific financial or regulatory tools are they planning to use to make this happen? These plans need funding mechanisms.
Right. They plan to leverage several tools. One is Freeport exemptions.
Okay.
It essentially exempts certain types of business inventory, like raw materials or finished goods waiting for shipment from local property taxes. They're offering a 100% exemption.
So that makes it attractive for logistics, warehousing, manufacturing.
Exactly. A big incentive for those key sectors. They're also looking at tax allocation districts, or TADEs.
TADEs, okay.
How do those work? Basically, the city identifies a specific redevelopment area. Then, any new property tax revenue generated by development within that area, above a baseline, is reinvested back into that same area to fund infrastructure or other improvements.
So the development pays for its own upgrades, essentially.
In a way, yes. It's a tool to kickstart revitalization. They're also considering things like capping business license fees, like nearby Union City does, and developing an impact fee program.
Impact fees, that's where new development helps pay for the new roads or sewers it requires.
Correct. Making sure growth helps cover its infrastructure costs. And the plan shows they looked at how neighboring cities use these tools, trying to learn and stay competitive.
Wow. Okay, this has been a really thorough deep dive. We've seen how South Fulton isn't just letting growth happen to it, but actively trying to shape its future. It's a plan that really tries to balance economic goals with what the community values, like that green jewel identity.
It really is a fascinating case study. You see the inherent complexities of planning, especially for a city finding its footing. They have to juggle that community desire for nature and local feel against the very real economic pressures and opportunities like that industrial base.
Absolutely. They're trying to hold on to a unique identity while preparing for pretty significant growth in both people and jobs. And it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? How does any city truly strike that balance? How do you grow rapidly but keep your character and ensure a good quality of life for everyone, especially when a major economic engine like industry is seen by residents as, well, maybe the biggest threat?
It's the central challenge.
It really is. So maybe the final thought for you, our listeners, is what can you take away from South Fulton's very comprehensive approach? What insights might help you think about shaping the future of your own community?